Welcome to Decoding Our Lives, a place to ask questions, gain understanding, and find the missing pieces of your life. It's time to open your mind and discover the world from a new place and a whole new perspective. Now here are your hosts, the Shaman Lady, Kathy Silver, and the Reverend Rob Lee. Kathy, what's happening? How are you today?
Hey, Rob, I'm great. How are you? Just groovy, as they say.
All right. Don't date us now. Don't date us. Okay. It's our first show. We don't need people knowing that. So there we go. Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you. This lovely lady next to me is the Shaman Lady, Kathy Silver. Okay. And I am the Reverend Rob Lee from Tarot with an Attitude. And we have a new show. And this is our pilot show, Decoding Our Lives. So we're going to be giving you, there's a website coming up, there are emails coming up, questions that you want to send them in. We're going to be, you can find us on a podcast. We're getting that worked out. Everything's getting worked out as we talk about it. But then you'll be able to go to the website, decodingourlives.com. We're going to have that there. It's going to be a lot of fun, but then you'll be able to see the videos on Patreon and some of them on YouTube. So we'll see what's happening. We're going to be interviewing people. Kathy,
yes.
What do you think Decoding Our Lives is about? What do you think we're when we and I met, this was not how we met, but then it was like, oh, we need to do this. Explain, please.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just have to tell you, there's this amazing chemistry and we kind of jive. So Decoding Our Lives was something that I'm going to say popped into my head because there's so much happening out there. And to get a little esoteric and metaphysical, we are in this huge shift of humanity. And there's not that many sites that actually talk about the shift that's going on, the energies. And so it was a sort of a birthing of how do we bring this? Because I know that you like to contribute. I like to contribute. How do we become the way showers of this new paradigm to help people understand and make sense out of what's going on? And so that's really what we're trying to do here, is bring in new ideas and things that maybe people haven't understood, they've never thought about. You know, everybody loves to live in their box. That's where we're comfortable. But when we begin to step out of this, because the universe is shifting us whether we like it or not, and we can go with the flow and be open to new ideas, or we can stay stuck. It's totally up to us. So, you know, I think that's, and this collaboration that you and I have is wonderful. And so really what this Decoding Our Lives is trying to make sense out of, you know, as we shift from the old paradigm to the new paradigm.
I think that's a great explanation. I think I want people to know too, just come on, ask questions. We may not have all the answers, but it's good to get some guidance, things like that. We can talk to spirit. We use tarot. We use different things. Kathy uses a different version of tarot than I use. We look at numerology different. I think that's why this is going to be such a good fit. So we can see how different systems, you know, we had an interesting conversation with Ryan the other day, and y'all get to meet him coming up soon, but about systems. And I think one of the things that we have going here is the world system, or let's talk about our American system, but predominantly the world system as we know it has been ingrained into everybody as a thought process. And now the human system is starting to fight against the government system. And we're realizing there are better ways and different things, and people are starting to question. What I want to make sure is people understand you can question and challenge systems without being an asshole, without being pissed off, with being in a place of peace and understanding and learning. Whether you accept what anybody has to say or not, that's okay. But just accept that's who they are. And I think that's what we're looking for here, is a place to help people ask questions. No matter what you think, we're not going to come down on you. We're not going to try to change your thought, change where you go or whatnot. We're just going to give you another way to look at things. And that's it. Plus, there's also information out there that Kathy and I are finding that's more linked internally than what we know. And I think you need to understand that. And I'm very excited about this. I think this project's going to be awesome. Let's talk about one of the, so we've already got some interviews that are going to come out. What do you think? Let's talk a little bit about each of those interviews, just a smidget to kind of whet people's appetite. There was Lynn Everhard. Am I saying that right?
Everard?
Yep. Okay. That took me through a whole thing of challenging my why. You know, what do you think about that whole challenging your why thing, or understanding your why? WHY. At first I was like, why? I'm thinking Y chromosome, you know, everything else. So, but no, it's understanding your own personal why. Tell us a little bit about that and how that affected you.
Oh, I thought it was so much fun. And actually mine, I'm just going to let them in on a little sneak preview, is make sense, which is kind of what we're trying to do with Decoding Our Lives, to make sense of this shift, this change. I mean, it's like standing on lily pads or shifting sand, and, you know, every day is different. And so mine was to make sense, to simplify and make a contribution. Why don't you tell the audience what yours were, and then they can go and see.
I loved it. And what's funny, my why was to challenge. I challenge the system. I challenge everything. I want, not in a bad way, but how do we look at this better? What's behind it? What's the core? But what I found was interesting, my why and challenge was to make sense of the system. So that's where you and I connect on this, is trying to make sense of all this. So, you know, and I'm coming at this from totally new. I challenged Lynn to put me through this whole thing beginning to end, and I did it. Wow, that was fantastic. I'm going to incorporate this into my private practice of challenges of counseling, therapy, coaching, whichever avenue you want to work with me in. That, it was just amazing. So look forward to that, and they'll be able to learn more about that. Out of these,
I want to add one more thing.
go
Is
right ahead.
making sense. If it doesn't make sense to me, I challenge the system. So there we go.
Whoop, whoop. Yep, exactly. And I'm constantly in a state of challenge. Okay. You know, and I'll share, and this will tell you, you know, in my last job, okay, not my last one, the one before that, in a call center, very large, one of the largest in America at that point in time. Whenever a rule would change, or they would change something, and I'd have to get it out to like 1,000 people or something like that, my first question was always, why are they doing this? And everybody thought it was because I just didn't like change. No, but I don't like change for no reason. Okay. So he would always call me in first, tell me what's going on, and then it was actually comical. He'd pick up his stress ball, lean back, and start throwing it in the air while I'm bouncing off the walls. You know, and all that. And he goes like, so when I start telling him, are you done? Yeah. What's the question you want to know? Why are we doing this? Okay. and he knew, let me vent, let me get, you know, pissy for a minute. But once I understood the why, nobody could sell it like I could. Okay. Nobody could make people understand, because once I know why we're doing something, I can help people. And that, and
no, but I will tell you that, you know, way back, I started out in pharmaceutical sales. And now, you know, I do biological decoding, which looks at the unresolved emotions behind, you know, the trigger, you know, because we all have that stress, and sometimes we carry that unknowingly, and that circulates. So it's different, but it's similar. So we're here, I'm going to say, to challenge the listeners and take them to another place that makes more sense.
Because not always, and I agree with you, Kathy, one of the things is it's not always about challenging the system. But you remember, you yourself are your own system. You have a spiritual belief, you have physical beliefs, things like that. What I want to do is challenge people to challenge their own system.
Right.
Look and see, be open to new ideas. What's going on? Do you understand where you're going, or are you just being drugged around by
and
your
the other thing is, and the other thing is, that's really important, not only to be a critical thinker and ask questions, but also, I guess the biggest question is, are you following somebody else's belief, Or are you being authentic to your own self? And do you have the courage and the bravery to stand up and say, you know what, this just doesn't work for me? And are you strong enough? And I would say, those are the questions. If we can help those listeners, please reach out, because we have walked down that path, and we are here to support you being your authentic self. Because as we shift and change, we come into a higher vibration, or I'm going to say coherence with who we are, talking about the mental, emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. And we actually, on a greater good, begin to all shift our world as we shine our light and step into our power.
I couldn't agree more. And it all starts with why.
Us.
Yeah, it
And
starts with
us.
us and asking why. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Am I here just to, oh, you know what? There's going to be this new thing called Taco Bell in this lifetime, so I think I want to live there. So my whole job, that's not why I'm here. That's not why I chose to be here or why I was sent here, whichever belief you have. So I think it's funny that, that old commercial is why ask why. One of the things I think that's funny, and I used to tell people when I taught sales, our children are born the perfect salesman, and we beat that out of them. Okay. Literally, who's in control of a conversation? The last person to ask a question, because now I'm directing the flow of the conversation. Why do we think we don't like it when our children go, when I say, why did you do this? And they go, oh, I don't know. Well, why did you do that? And you're like, oh, don't answer a question with a question. And actually, we don't like that. But all they're doing is they're doing what God gave us as the proper motivation to start challenging and saying, I don't understand that. But if you're going to tell me this, why do you do that? And, so I'm not saying that's always great. And I did the same thing. Shut up. You're driving me crazy. You're not going to Disney World. I'm burning Disney World down. It's one of those things where that's what we do, but it's in our nature. And I think the system wants us to stop asking those questions as a whole.
The old system.
Government system.
Yeah, the old system. Yeah. Matter of fact, it goes back to the days of Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates. He didn't want critical thinkers. That's why they were starting to take away art and some of the creative classes, because it taught people how to think, and they challenged the system, and that was not what they had in mind. Speaking of challenging the system, we had a wonderful astrologer on.
Oh my God, she's awesome. Go ahead. Well, I'm going to show you what I got here. I haven't even opened the package yet.
Okay. You got her cards.
Go ahead. Yes. And I'm not going to officially open them. I'm going to have her back on.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to do a deck reveal, a deck opening with her, so she can explain her own deck and what she does and what she believes. But tell us about, Michelle Karen. I loved her.
Yeah, Michelle, I met probably 10 or 12 years ago. She is one of the first quantum astrologers on the planet. Very good at numerology. She was born in Helsinki. Her mother was French. Her dad worked for the Helsinki, whatever the major paper was. She lived in like Paris and London, Washington, D.C. I think she said 7 continents. She lived in LA for a while. She's in Phoenix now. She was identified in 2004 as a reincarnated a shaman or Kiro princess, Incan princess, I think, which I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't think she even knows if she believes it, but that's what they felt.
Right.
I went to Peru with her in November of 2019. Amazing experience. And then that's how I sort of got initiated into the shaman world and it something awoken in me. I had no plans to do this. I had no plans to be a shaman. I had no plans. Everything is just, you're kind of nudged. And I think that's another message, is sometimes it doesn't make sense. Back to my why. But we have to follow those nudges from the universe. So we had Michelle and we talked to her, and that was cool. Anything you want to add about
Well,
that?
you know, Michelle what I thought was really cool was using tarot, using everything. We talked about tarot, we talked about numerology. She's very good at combining those together. And there's another question I'm going to ask her that I can't wait for our next interview, and she's already agreed to come back because she had so much fun. But she's done her own oracle deck. Now, we know me, tarot and oracle decks, that's my thing. That's where I live. And you know what? And I'm going to show her deck, attuning to the quantum, so you can see the wrap still on it. I'm dying. I'm like a kid at Christmas. I'm dying to get in there because I fell in love with her. And it's one of those things I want to get in there and show people what these cards are. But she connected again the outside world to the inside world. She connected systems on all different kind of levels. And I thought that was just absolutely amazing to get that perspective and validation of how these outside. I'm challenging the tarot system. There are things that I do in challenging tarot and oracle. Don't give me say you got to do this, you got to do that. Okay, that's my first flag to go. Why? Why?
Well, and the other thing, it seems like all of these systems have pieces. It's almost like this big giant, Tetris moving quantum puzzle. And I would say each piece of those systems has answers. And, we've always been told, or I'm going to say the old energy told us, the old paradigm, the old white guys club, I hate to say that, always told us it was bad. It was the devil. It was, evil, it was whatever. But what if those are the very systems that were brought in by spirit to help us make sense of things that we can't make sense out of? So that's right. One thing. The other thing is I do a newsletter every month, and this year I am drawing one of Michelle's cards within the newsletter. And I can tell you that February is practical thinking, I think, is what came up. So
so you have a website, right? Other than Decoding Our Lives.
Yes.
Right. What's your website? And can people go sign up for your newsletter there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. CatherineSilver.com, and I will spell it. My grandmother was Danish, right? And there is no E in the middle. It's CATHRINE. Last name is Silver.com. And so, yeah, you can sign up for there. It's free. I've been doing it since the end of 2012, the beginning of 2013. I include a lifestyle piece, which talks about, in January, it was called We Are the Bridge. And I have a recipe in there because I'm trying to get people back into the kitchen, because there's a lot of energy that takes place. We really need
Yes,
to.
there is. Yes, there is.
Right? We really need to be cognizant of, even if we go to a beautiful restaurant, the maitre d' may be wonderful, but we don't know what's going on in the kitchen. And that energy is imparted in our food. So when we can get in and cook a couple meals for ourselves, we get to control the ingredients. We get to limit what we don't want. I'm thinking like preservatives and all of that. The processed food is not very good for us. Matter of fact, we are going to have coming up a woman named Lorraine Davis. And she will talk about that a lot, because I think it's really important. I think takeout has been really overrated, and it's time to sort of get back to basics. So,
oh my God, yeah. No, I'm trying to get back in the kitchen and start cooking again. My son gave me a wok for Christmas, been mastering it. Well, you said something interesting there, and it just popped into my head. So this is kind of where our show is going to go, those types of things. So let me ask you this. When somebody's cooking, okay, and they're pissed off, is that a better day to eat out and try to pick up some different energy? Or do you really think, like when I have really pissed my wife off and she's taking that ribeye and she's like going, yeah, you bastard, that's boom, and she never does that, not out loud. But it's one of those things where, are we imparting that energy into our food because it's porous, it absorbs, everything does? I never thought about it. And then I'm going to take that in. Do you think that's a valid thought? Something we should be thinking of?
Okay, I'm going to tell you two quick stories. Number one, about egg salad. And when I get into the kitchen, I will tell whether you like it or not.
I know.
Okay. My friend Joy was a vegetarian for many years. I am not. So this was something that we could both eat and enjoy. And she used to say to me, your egg salad always tastes better. What kind of eggs you use, what kind of mayonnaise you use, what do you do? And I said to her, and when I'm in the kitchen, it's out of love. I'm a double Cancer on the astrology. So it's all about food and nurturing and family and, all those.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, Joy, it's about love. And she got really kind of huffy and she said, no, food is just fuel. And I said, no. So that's one thing. The second thing is my son, I ended up in Florida by default, but my son as a 13-year-old came down to play tennis. And after a year of living in the dorm, it was like kind of no school and, not so supervised. So my mother-in-law said, I really like Florida. So we set her up in a townhouse that we had bought a walking distance from the tennis academy. And, sometimes she was just difficult, let's just say that. And I said, okay, Dave, it's my responsibility. So I would spend a month or 5 weeks in Florida, and then I'd go home to Texas, not from Texas, but that's where we were living, back and forth. And David says to me one day, and this is a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, Mom, dinner always tastes better when you make it. Well, on some level, Barbara, and we can get into the Michael teachings, was a server, a double server. That was her role. And so she was doing it out of obligation, not out of love. Gotcha. But as a 13-year-old, he didn't understand that. And it was something that I hadn't really delved into, all this metaphysical and esoteric stuff. So I didn't understand it either. I just felt that when I'm in the kitchen, it's because I love what I'm doing, and I do it because I want to do it, not because I have to do it. And so I'm going to circle back, and we talked about, you asking your wife, but the other option, what I would say is we can say a prayer. If Emoto can say a prayer over very polluted water and change it from something that looks like, in my opinion, something like a bad cancer cell to this magnificent crystal snowflake that has 7 points, which is divine, then we should be able to say a prayer over our food and change it, because nothing is permanent. Everything is morphing and changing all the time. So the other thing is, before she cooks dinner, if she knows she's in a not so good a place, why don't you go in and kiss her and say, honey, I love you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, that was just a matter of fact, most of the time I cook,
right.
Because she works. So
right. No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, even to our listeners, if they know that the food preparer, if they've had an off day, let's just say an off day, right?
Yeah, good point. Don't piss off the chef,
Right. So I would say that, but if that's not the case, or it's left for you in the refrigerator or whatever, put your intention into the food and change the energy around it. That's how powerful we are.
And I believe that. And we didn't think about that. I do believe we can change the energy that is around us by infusing it with our own. And I think we miss that. I think that's part of the magic that we've been given, and we've forgotten about it. Right. Is we can change what's going on around us. We can, even if you want to go biblical, through my faith, others can be healed. Well, I can heal myself. There are different things I can do to change my surroundings. I just have to be willing to do it, and do I truly believe it? That's huge. See, we go from talking about avocado mousse, is what you were talking about before the show started, avocado mousse, to why challenges, to astrology, everything. We're eclectic and we love it. I love it. But all these things are parts of life's puzzle. They're part of these things we're here for, and we're meant to experience. So it's one of those things that I think the show is going to be done. It's need to remind people, Decoding Our Lives. Right now, the email is decodingourlives@gmail.com. You got a question, you can read out there. We're setting up emails for Kathy and myself and for other general questions right through the website. That's all coming. Join the podcast, check it out. You want to see the video, you're going to find it, the full length videos on Patreon, and it's going to be a great way to go. It's going to be a great way to go.
So,
we had
Rob,
another guy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's talk about the millennials, because your son's going to be on. And that was the other question that came to me in the Pate store, right?
Right.
From a gal named Holly, who said, these millennials, they don't want to work. And I said, no. They don't want to work in the system that we've created, and they're here to break the system, and we remodel it or reboot it or revive it or whatever. But it's going to look different than our grandparents' generation, our parents' generation, our generation as we move forward. So talk about the interview with Brian.
And that's it. And ironically, I was watching some TikTok last night late and whatnot, and there's a couple of things on there. It's actually fun with people kind of a man and his son. I can't tell if they're poking at millennials or not, but they're making a point about the different belief systems and whatnot. And the millennial keeps challenging, hey dad, ask him a question, just send him right through the roof, and he keeps talking about you stupid ass millennials, things like that or whatnot. But who's smart? I think like you, I haven't seen any that don't want to work. They just don't want to work for nothing. And I don't mean money-wise. They want their work to count for something. Yes, they want to get paid. They're challenging the system. They're asking their why. And what's funny is, but they need to get out. Well, what's the generation you are in? The baby boomers.
Baby boomers. Okay.
So you tell me who's got it figured out. This millennial who's pissing off his father, okay, or the father who's screaming at him, but won't put him out. If you want him to go function, which one's smarter? The father that keeps feeding somebody that pisses him off every time he turns around, or the kid who's going, my dad loves me, he's not going to throw me out. So I'm going to challenge, I'm going to wait, I'm going to go. And so this young man we're talking about, Ryan, wow. When you first meet him, you're like, okay, this is a millennial. But then you hear the depth of his thought and well-structured thought and the questions you put towards him and his ideas about society and new things. It's like, wow, we need more people on this page. When I hear my own son who has agreed to come on and represent millennials, he's military. So him and Ryan run a lot of very close things, but he's challenging. He just quit his outside job because he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't even agree in your goal. I want to make your business better than you do. So I'm walking away from it. I think that understanding millennials is not giving ourselves credit for teaching them, we want you to be happy, challenge the system. They didn't just poof, all get born with a new gene that says challenge everything. I think we have to take credit a little bit for letting them challenge.
Okay, so I'm going to throw something else out, Rob.
Uh-huh.
So the vibration of the planet is way different than when we were born.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What I understand is when we take our first breath, we are calibrated to the new vibration of where the planet currently is.
Right.
So, yeah, part of it does come with us, but part of it is who they are here as souls to move us forward.
I can go with that.
As humanity, right? And so each generation has a different sort of take on things.
Right.
Just like I understand, the people who millennials can't work at McDonald's because they've got everything, the buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the millennials will say, well, I can do it 2 and 5, and I don't have to do 1, 3, and 4. And it does the same thing. And they said, but that's not what we want you to do. I said, well, that's stupid. If that's the way you want me to do it, I quit. And so that's another thing is I don't think people have listened to their contribution, or even though they're young, I still think everybody's viewpoint is valid. And every time you meet somebody, even if you don't really care for them, they probably are there to teach you something.
Right. And I agree with that. And there is that delicate balancing act, because I remember as a young person, feeling not listened to, always trying to meet up to like my parents or their age brackets, judgment, their personality, the way things are doing things. But I also know too, when I thought I had a lot of shit figured out, yeah, I didn't. So there's that good balance of, okay, I know we're old. I heard my son say the other day, I don't think anybody over 60 should be allowed to run for president. And I'm like, whoa, you might want to rein that in.
Okay, that's another thing. Do you feel 60?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
As I'm older than you are, and I don't feel that old.
No, because I would go out right now. I would,
just getting started.
Yeah, no, and some of this now is slapping. It's karma. Because I remember when my dad turned 50, he said, wow, I'm officially middle-aged. And I started laughing. And he's like, what are you talking about? Middle-aged, 50? You're freaking old. And he looked at me and says, I'm middle-aged. I said, no, name me 5 100-year-old people. And he's like, and he wouldn't talk to me for a week. I was only playing with him. But so now I'm in that boat. Okay, I'm no longer middle-aged. I'm old. I'm 60. But now we're going to use the term I'm mature. I'm mature. I'm like a good wine. Okay.
No. Wait. First of all, we have to cancel that thought because we are programmed to believe that.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Our biology is designed to live hundreds of years. And so, but we are programmed by the news. At this age, you should have this. At this age, you should have that. Bull crap. We don't need to have any of that.
No, I agree with you. So and let me give you another aspect too. It's one of the things that I challenge our society of, we have learned, we throw away senior citizens and their experience. And just like my son said, nobody over 60. Well, there's a lot of experience you're missing there, sport. Okay. And just being able to do the ups and downs and I can cut to the chase on a lot of your shit, telling you that ain't going to work. And let me tell you why. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. But one of the things I do see that's going along with that, and if we're not careful, is the systematic disposal of our older, more mature senior people. And we're kind of led down that path. And I think it's something we need to challenge. There are a lot of people. I didn't go back to school until I was 50. So at 58 is when I wind up with a master's degree, finally got my education. Now I'm sitting here waiting at 60 for my licensure to come through for the state of Florida. And you know what? At 60. So I got a lot of life left to give yet because I don't feel old.
Rob, you want to hear something else? Is when we let the inner child out, because most of us think we have to, grow up and be an adult and be responsible. And I'm not saying those things aren't important, but we also, the people who have that inner child, the curiosity, they see the magic, I'm going to say, in life and how things can be magical. And when we bring that inner child out, and I'm going to say, there's a neighbor who's across the street and he's like 98, 99, rolling it, still driving it. I see him every once in a while. Now, okay, he only drives short distances, but he still drives. He's got this little twinkle in his eye.
Yep.
And there's just something about him. So that's another thing, is when we allow ourselves to let that inner child out. And if we had a shitty childhood, we all know what a good childhood was. And so we can go rewrite that in our mind, and we can create, we can go to the we can go to the beach, we can do things to make our life magical at any point, and it's our
Absolutely.
choice.
And you know my saying, bangarang. That's what we put out is what we get back. You know, the Bible teaches us that's what we show, that shall we also reap. And it's not exactly worded that way. That's kind of our version of it. But think about it. That's the same thing. It's what you put out, you're going to get back. The Bible was bangarang in this baby, you know, for long before I ever came into existence. And you know what? This is something we need to remember. Yes, you know, we grew up being told a leopard can't change its spots. A leopard can't change its spots. In my world, he can't. He can't.
Why can't we just paint the leopard spots?
You know what? You know, we're trying to use the apps. We're talking about two completely different things, and they try to use an apple to describe an orange. Right. And yes, you can change who you are, where you're going. You can understand it. You can shift directions at any time you want to in life.
Yep. And the secret, pure intent. That's it. We just have to put that intent out there. Keep going, Rob.
That's it. That's it. And, you know, you talk about that inner child. One of the things I say all the time on the show, unadult yourself. Yep. We have magic. We had magic when we were children, when we believed a fat man could squeeze his ass down a chimney and give us gifts. Okay. We believed it. All right. I didn't have a chimney. My first question was, I don't have a chimney. Oh my God. How's he getting in here? Jealousy windows. Okay. We always leave a window open. Got it. You know, but when we believe things that were bigger than, better than us, and we let the world take that away from us, can you imagine with an awakened spirit, enlightenment? I think that's some of what the ascended masters were here to teach us. Yep. Is you have this ability, but stop thinking like them. Yeah. And think like me. You know, so I think that's powerful. I think it goes right into the decoding our lives. And this is some of what we're here to help people do and to understand there is magic out there. You can feel it. There's energy, there's vibration, and we can capture it. And it comes from within us because of who we are and the way we are made. So, yep. So I think that's a good picture of the show, don't you?
Yeah, and I was gonna say we got one more millennial, and I think people can relate to this too. Her name is Laura. She thought she had her whole life planned out. She had gotten her undergraduate in marine biology, her master's in marine biology, whatever that looked like. I'm not sure if those are the exact titles. Had plans to go on to get her PhD, and she kind of got into this huge depression. So it was almost like her soul was saying, yep, nope, this isn't quite your purpose. You thought it was, and this is the family that you come from, and this was very important, but this is not what you're here to do. And I think that's another thing that our listeners need to hear is sometimes we have these ideas of how things are supposed to be, and something happens and we get a course correction. So we're going to talk to her in the future as well. So
good, because I have personal beliefs on that. I think we're asking too much. We found out now that theoretically, or not theoretically, physically, the brain doesn't even stop growing until 25 years old. Okay, so when we say somebody's an adult, poof, we can't just mystically make a number and make somebody an adult. Depending on what your version of the adult is. Don't panic, children. I'm not trying to take your rights away or anything else. Hear me out. But I think we force our children into making decisions such as college that are above and beyond what they're capable for at that time. You're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. I worked with kids from magnet schools that were on my son's soccer team. Mr. Lee, I can't make the practice. And it was competition leagues. It was big time stuff. Like I can't make the practice of all these tests. They were going home and they were being barraged with bookwork. They were no longer being children. They were living their parents' thing of you're going to get the best SAT scores to get you into the best schools. But then I went to school at 50. And once the kids learned I wasn't a professor, okay, and they saw me in their class, they would come to me, Mr. Lee, I have a question. What? I need to know how to tell my parents I don't want to do this. I'm like, well, where are you? I'm a junior. Oh shit. You know, so you've already you've already grabbed 3 years worth of college debt. All right. And we're forcing these people, stop. Let these kids live for a while. Let them go out and get jobs. Let them find out what they want, what they think life really is, before they invest $140,000 of A, your money, or B, their money. Okay. And they don't even know. And this is what I'm talking about, challenging the system. I think we need to challenge the way this whole education system works. I think we need to challenge this as we go forward, things like that. And because I've seen lots of kids now, we have a lot of, one of the big things they talk about is student debt. How many kids are carrying, not even kids, adults are out there carrying full on student debt with no degree because they didn't get finished? Man,
yeah,
you got to know what you're going after before. It's like buying a house and just opening a realty book and going, okay, because I don't have the knowledge or experience to go there. All right. And that's some of this is what we're talking about. So when we get into these topics, yeah, it's going to be, and you might see me and my son go at it, okay, on the Millennials. So tune in for that. But the beautiful part is we can agree to disagree. Okay.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
one of those things. So yeah, no, I think the show is going to be awesome. If anybody has an idea, I want to challenge the audience. If you have an idea for somebody you want us to talk to, send us their information. Invite them over. If you want to come on the show, talk to me and Kathy. Let us know why. We're open. I'm not going to have you come on for foolishness, and Kathy isn't either. Right. We want you to be able to articulate and know exactly what you're talking about. But at some point, love to hear all sides and things like that. But, decodingourlives@gmail.com is the way to get hold of us right now. Yep. Kathy, you got anything you want to do before we end this show, but get this party started with Decoding Our Lives?
Yeah, I just, you took the words out of my mouth. When any listeners have the questions, reach out. This is kind of what we're here to do. And we're going to give you our spin that's going to be different from probably the mainstream belief. I would say that, but how do we learn and grow? I'm going to say as souls first. I was never so grateful to the woman who I met her 20 years ago, who opened me up to a whole different way of thinking. There was always something, years ago, I looked around, life was good. And I said, there's gotta be more to life than this.
Yep.
And that is when I started my journey. And so there's going to be a lot of listeners out there who know at the gut level, there's got to be more to life than this. And that's the audience that we're trying to reach.
Absolutely. I agree. So everybody, remember www.catherinesilver.com. You'll see it scrolling across your screen. You can reach me at tarotwithanAttitude.com. Check us out, find out what's going on individually, but soon we'll always come back together, things like that. So with all that being said, everybody, I'm going to use a term that is near and dear to my heart. Take what you want, leave what you don't. But just leave with peace, love, and light. Okay?
Yep. Love and light.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye now.